Mental exercise to develop occult powers by intellectual exercise. In this lecture, we will be focusing on the mental exercise to see through the thing's inner essence. It is a very important step because in order to develop occult powers and clairvoyance, one must be fluent in seeing things' essence without any personal prejudice. This technique has been practiced since the ancient times. Some of Buddhist meditation techniques also use this particular approach, and that's why some Buddhist monks developed psychic ability called siddhi. For example, some Buddhist monks practice meditation in the graveyard. The purpose of such meditation is to penetrate the coexistence of life and death, that every living thing has the seed of its own death within itself. So through this meditation, one can penetrate the core essence of living, which always contains death. In the West, several occult scholars taught this technique, and I will use the Rudolf Steiner's version for this lecture. In general, Steiner's instruction is not easy to follow, so I selected the easiest exercise from his teaching for practice. Now let us begin. It is very important to give the proper direction to thoughts and feelings in order that one may develop the perception of that which is invisible to a person living the ordinary life. And it is quite a simple matter, yet the results are of the greatest consequence if the experiment is carried out with perseverance and in the right frame of mind. One of the ways by which this development may be carried out is as follows. Place before you the small seed of a plant. It is then necessary, while contemplating this significant object, to create with intensity the right kind of thought, and through these thoughts to develop certain feelings. In the first place, let the student clearly grasp what is really presented to his vision. Let him describe to himself the shape, color, and all other qualities of the grains of a seed. Then let his mind dwell upon the following train of thought. This grain of seed, if planted in the soil, will grow into a plant of a complex structure. Let him clearly picture this plant to himself. Let him build it up in his imagination. And then, let him reflect that the object now existing only in his imagination will presently be brought into actual physical existence by the forces of the earth and of light. If the thing contemplated by him were an artificially made object, though such a close imitation of nature that no external difference could be detected by human eyesight, no forces inherent in the earth or light could avail to produce from it a plant. He who thoroughly grasped this thought and inwardly assimilate it will also be able to form the following idea with the right feeling. He will reason thus: that which is ultimately to grow out of this seed is already, as a force, now secretly enfolded within it. The artificial duplicate of the seed contains no such force, and yet both appear to be alike to my eyes. The real seed, therefore, contains something invisible which is not present in the limitation. It is this invisible something on which thought and feeling are now to be concentrated. Let the student fully realize that this invisible something will later on translate itself into a visible plant perceptible by him in shape and color. Then talk to yourself as follows. The invisible will become visible. If I could not think, then I could not now realize that which will become visible later on. After finishing this sentence, recite it in your mind. Particular stress must be laid on the importance of feeling with intensity that which one thinks. In calmness of mind, a single thought must be vitally experienced within oneself to the exclusion of all disturbing influences. Sufficient time must be taken to allow the thought and the state of feeling connected therewith to become, as it were, embedded in the soul. If that is accomplished in the right way, possibly not until after numerous attempts, an inward force will make itself felt, and this force will create new powers of perception. The grain of seed will appear as if enclosed in a small luminous cloud. The spiritualized vision of the student perceives it as a kind of flame. This flame is of a lilac color in the center, blue at the edges. Then appears that which one could not see before, and which was created by the power of thought and feeling brought into life within oneself. That which was physically invisible has there revealed itself to the spiritual eye. It is pardonable if, to many people, all this appears to be mere illusion. Many will say, what is the value of such visions or such hallucinations? And many will thus fall away and no longer continue the path. But this is precisely the important point. Not to confuse, at this difficult stage of human evolution, spiritual reality with the mere creations of fantasy, and to have the courage to press onward instead of growing discouraged and faint-hearted. On the other hand, however, it is necessary to insist on the necessity of maintaining unimpaired and of perpetually cultivating the healthy attitude of mind which is required for the distinguishing of truth from illusion. Never during all these exercises must the student surrender the fully conscious control of himself. He must continue to think as soundly and sanely in these spiritual conditions as he does with regard to the things and the occurrences of ordinary life. He must be at every moment be clear-headed and sober-minded, and it would be the greatest mistake if the student, through such practices, lost his mental equilibrium, or if he were prevented from judging as sanely and clearly as before the matters of workaday life. The student should, therefore, examine himself again and again to find out whether he has remained unaltered in relation to the circumstances among which he lives, or whether perchance he has lost his mental balance. He must ever maintain a calm repose within his own individuality and an open mind for everything, being careful at the same time not to drift into vague daydreamings or to experiment with all sorts of exercises.